You're listening to the B Fox and B Frank show, and you got to start the show. Tip my cap to the Fighting Herms. Arizona State believed in them, and they followed through. First real big upset of the year, I feel like, taking down top 15 team in Michigan State and Herm Edwards' second game ever.
This was as big a stunner as you can get. I think everyone, including us, like discounted Herm Edwards. Okay, I think you picked Arizona State to win that game.
I did, but
we all discounted him to the fact of he didn't even know what recruiting was, essentially, and has just seemed to be a figurehead more than an actual coach. And here he is with premier clock management, better than we've seen in most NFL games, and he beats Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely panned the hire. We made fun of that plenty, but then it kind of got to the point of liking Arizona State, ironically, because all indications from the point he was hired were kind of pointing to Herm is just going to flame out spectacularly. And that can still happen. We're only 2 games into his tenure. But kind of feel like rooting for him now because, as we've said, nothing would like throw the college football world and powers that be into chaos than somebody like this who didn't know what recruiting was, that there wasn't like some sort of draft for schools choosing players. Didn't know what Arizona State's mascot was, hilariously, but yeah, he's the first 2 games against Texas San Antonio and MSU. They've really placed a premium on controlling the line of scrimmage, and N'Keal Harry is one of the best wide receivers in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to have a player like him. It's crazy because he's the best coach in Arizona right now. Kevin Sumlin has gotten off to a disastrous start at Arizona, and I mean, there are no other teams. I mean, Northern Arizona could be in the talks because they've actually won a game, but they're FCS.
Yeah, Kevin Sumlin, hot seat check, is going to be a recurring segment this year too, it seems, because
we missed him. We missed him for 0 games. I mean, he is already himself.
Thought he might fly under the radar, kind of giving Arizona some sleeper love early in the season. So I mean, you still have Khalil Tate, if nothing else.
Yeah,
but he has just been completely wasted on that team. It's been brutal back-to-back weeks for Arizona. But getting back to the topic at hand, Arizona State now, again, only 2 games, but if you're looking for a Pac-12 South sleeper, I think this is the Arizona school you got to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I had said to look at Arizona because of Khalil Tate, and I actually thought Kevin Sumlin would be a perfect match for him, as we've seen with explosive athletic quarterbacks. Hasn't been the case thus far, but I mean, I think we get kudos for being in the right state at least.
There are so very many Pac-12 states could have gone anywhere. But that was the big upset of the week. The other big Pac-12 game, conference game we highlighted last week. That one I was dead wrong on. Stanford just suffocating USC. Bryce Love getting back on track after a fairly disastrous opener. And Stanford's defense, again, 3 turnovers, picked off JT Daniels twice. USC scored 3 points. I mean, just never really seemed like they mustered a threat.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if this game is played in November, USC probably wins it, I think, or at least it's a significantly closer game because even though it was a 17-3 final, it never really felt like USC was threatening too much.
Yeah, you got to score points to win, which kind of goes against Herm's basic ideologies, as most game quotes have shown. But I mean, especially against a team like Stanford, you're only going to get so few opportunities. It's not like USC couldn't gain yards, but costly turnovers, bad times, just empty possessions, that's really not going to get it done. So no matter who's been the coach of Stanford, whether it's Harbaugh or now David Shaw, they're always going to be extremely fundamentally sound, technically sound team, and if you make mistakes, they're always going to take advantage, and that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yeah, and like you said, Bryce Love got back on track against, I'm going to say, a pretty bad USC run defense. Bryce Love is very good, but UNLV is not, and they to put up 300 yards on them, so they've got to get that figured out very quickly. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season for USC. But kind of going back to the Trojans offensively, they are desperately missing Ronald Jones. They have no run game whatsoever, and it's putting so much pressure on a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't make anybody feel better to see Ronald Jones kind of languishing in the Bucs depth chart, not really making any headway. I mean, it really hurts seeing Sam Darnold just go off in his first NFL game against the Lions. Certainly could have used him for this one, but I mean, he's very clearly pro ready. But yeah, I agree with you completely. It's very early in the season to be playing a conference game, and if this did happen later in the season, or who knows, it's still possible that that they can meet again in the Pac-12 title game. Then, I mean, maybe it'll be a different result. I would at least think it would be more competitive, because certainly USC is the vastly younger team at key positions.
Absolutely.
The SEC, Georgia, South Carolina. I mean, Georgia's just a wagon. This is another one. Thought a 10-point spread might be doing South Carolina a little bit of a disservice at home. It was not. If anything, it's the other way around. I mean, Georgia just came out. Jake Fromm really didn't even have to do that much. They just ran the ball down South Carolina's throats again and again. I think they ran something like 52 times. And I mean, South Carolina is still, I think, one of the better teams in the SEC East. So for Georgia to just go in and blow them out by 24 points on the road really should worry the rest of the division and certainly the rest of the country.
Yeah, this was a monster game, especially for the three-headed beasts in the backfield. Like, Georgia just literally taps a guy on the shoulder, says, "Get out there, go run the ball," and that's all they do. Like, Fromm is Ian Book, but to a obviously better level where they let him throw the ball. But all he does, two-step, hand off the ball, two-step, hand off the ball, sit in the shotgun, hand off the ball. Like, it's actually incredible. And even when he doesn't and they let him pass it, he's unbelievably efficient with it. Yeah, he did have an interception this week, but 15 of 18, 194 yards and a touchdown is a pretty darn good week for just about anybody.
Yeah, it's a pretty low-pressure gig when you have just an actual stable of running backs behind you and that defense. But it's not like Jake Fromm isn't also very extremely good at playing quarterback. So I mean, it's gonna cause issues for teams all year, and we'll have to see who the team is that actually figures it out and devises some sort of effective plan to limit this run game. Through 2 weeks, nobody, which is not super surprising considering it's only been one actual game. I mean, we're at this point, we're just kind of penciling in Georgia, Alabama in the SEC championship game. You would think that might be the place where we'd see it, but so far, I mean, Georgia has been extremely impressive and very clearly the playoff contender that we all thought they would be.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked. Their defense was really good. Jake Bentley's a good quarterback for South Carolina, and Deebo Samuel's obviously one of the best playmakers. They held him in check with just 6 catches for 33 yards, and Bentley had 2 picks. I think both went for pick sixes. At least one of them did.
Yeah, I mean, which is really what Georgia's been known for too. The offense has kind of developed a little more under Kirby Smart, which is a little ironic because that's never been his forte. But yeah, the defense is what we thought it was, and basically what it always was under Mark Richt. It's still these are still Georgia teams crafted in Rick's image. Very strong defense and a ridiculous running back or running backs. Sometimes you'll get a guy like Matthew Stafford back there, Aaron Murray, Jake Fromm, who does a little bit more from the quarterback position, but those two first points have always been there.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I mean, they're just loaded at every position.
Yeah, it's actually ridiculous to just watch this team play. Like, anytime they get the ball or, come up with a big play on defense, it doesn't surprise you just because they're just so talented. And you're curious how there can be teams that are better in college football. And there still is at least one. There might be two, but definitely one.
Okay, maybe we'll see.
Okay.
I mean, you would certainly think so.
Yes.
But looking ahead, one big SEC game next week. Coach O, LSU, really two teams that had arguably the most impressive wins of week one. LSU going to Auburn. So it'll be a quarterback duel between Jarrett Stidham, who I think we both agree is the best quarterback in the SEC, and Joe Burrow, who has exceeded the very, very, very low bar of LSU quarterbacks. At Auburn, who are you liking in this one?
Love Auburn. It's always tough to pick against Coach O because he's just going to get the guys up to play. But Auburn at home is a very tough team to beat. Auburn with a good quarterback at home is a very tough team to beat, and they've got a superior run defense, which is just going to force Joe Burrow to make plays, and I don't know if he has it in him yet.
No, yeah, I don't know either. Coach O, in that regard, like you were just saying, kind of strikes me in the same vein as Tom Herman, and this is not the biggest compliment because you're absolutely right. They're going to be jacked up just like they were from Miami.
But just because they're jacked up doesn't mean anything.
Right, but also the game last week, they won. It wasn't close, but they didn't play anybody. It looked very lackadaisical out there, and that was kind of the tone of post-game press conference. That's kind of going to be the key to his tenure at LSU is if he's able to bring the same intensity to the Troys of the world as he is for playing Bama close or beating Miami at their second home. But yeah, I think Auburn's going to be too tough, especially at home. They will have to figure out a way to slow down Nick Brossette, who is having a monster year so far, but I just don't see LSU having an answer to Stidham.
Yeah, and Auburn has a really good secondary too, so they can go straight man coverage and force guys like Jefferson to make plays.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the confirmation bias game with Joe Burrow. This could be it.
Yes,
because I know an awful game is looming out there where I can just ignore every other outing, be like, this is it. This is what we expected. But yeah, I mean, if LSU somehow pulls off a win here, then they'll officially be for real.
Yeah, and it'll be tough to watch them throughout the rest of the year because it would almost feel like they've got a game, like the letdown game is coming because they haven't had it yet against two huge opponents.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's always Alabama.
Yes.
Got a lot of heartbreak associated there. So this is the other unofficial team that I'm rooting for, along with Arizona State. My not actual teams I'm a fan of, but Boise State going to Oklahoma State. Boise State Troy week one was supposed to be like the battle of the top two group of 5 teams. Blew them out of the water.
Yeah.
Rolled up over 800 yards on UConn last week. Oklahoma State, no offensive slouch either. Going to be in Big 12 country. Who you liking here?
I'm going Boise. I don't buy into Oklahoma State. I love Mike Gundy. I think it's a tough place to play, but I don't think it's an SEC like a Kyle Field or Jordan Hare or anything like that, where you get a massive advantage from playing at Boone T. Pickens Field or whatever they call it.
No, when I think of Oklahoma State, I think of like noon kickoffs.
Yes.
Like there's been a couple big games there, certainly, when they've had like Dez or Blackman, but
Yep.
like that's always the image that's seared into my skull, so it doesn't necessarily cultivate a very raucous and intimidating environment. They are also replacing Rudolph and James Washington still, and although Cornelius to Wallace has been a fairly good combination so far, it's not the same. Justice Hill, of course, is going to do his thing and probably rack up another first team All Big 12. But I mean, is Oklahoma State going to be that good defensively to slow down Boise?
Right.
I don't think so. It's
Neither
a Big 12 team.
I mean, I think the biggest thing here is you got to look at Taylor Cornelius and see that he's played South Alabama and Missouri State and thrown 3 interceptions in those 2 games. I would risk a lot of my life to say that Boise State's defense is going to be a lot better than that. And compounding on that, they've got a really good offense that, like you said, put up over 800 yards against a shitty UConn team, but still 800 yards is nothing to scoff at.
That's hard. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
Even for like an elite team against a scrub, stereotypically speaking. But also, a fun fact I just read and did not fact check, but Boise is going for its 200th win since the year 2000, and they would be the first school to reach that mark in the new millennium.
Wow.
So consistent, sustained excellence over there in Boise. This would be quite the way to put them over the top, because right now, say Boise, UCF's a half step behind them, but those are the 2 playoff hopes at the moment for the group of 5.
Yeah, and UCF's getting screwed over by the Hurricane. They're losing this game. If it gets replayed, I don't know what they'll do, but if it doesn't, there's a whole game that they don't get to play.
Yeah, and I mean that's something to point at, and also the kind of the prevailing notion from the talking heads and everyone, like the Feinbaums of the world, was that all right, it's a nice undefeated season. Let's see if you can do it again, and then maybe we'll consider you. So this already kind of giving people an out. So it's upsetting for the defending national champs. Certainly,
as recognized by the NCAA.
Yeah, it's official now. Lastly, arguably the game of the week: Ohio State TCU at Jerry World. Ohio State's been dominant against shitty teams. So is TCU, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's still the last game with interim head coach Ryan Day for Ohio State before Urban Meyer's suspension is lifted. Gary Patterson's still over there for TCU since the beginning of time. What do you liking here?
I want TCU so bad, but I can't pick them. Sean Robinson just hasn't impressed me in his 2 starts so far. And replacing a guy like Kenny Trill is not an easy job, just given the name, but also the production he had on the field sometimes. Robinson hasn't even equaled the sometimes yet in terms of Kenny Hill's game. Their defense is good, not great. They didn't look stout against SMU last week. That could be, blamed on the weather or the delays and all that they had to go through. But Dwayne Haskins should have been starting over JT Barrett. There is no doubt in my mind that this guy is better and will be better in his career at Ohio State than JT Barrett was. No reason whatsoever. He's dominant last week against Rutger, who is terrible, but 20 of 23, 233 yards, 4 touchdowns. No matter who you're playing, is a good game.
They finally let Rutgers score this year too.
I know.
Nice. They got a field goal. It's very hard to judge these teams critically just based on who they played than nobody. So it's hard to truly identify any potential weak spots. Obviously, Ohio State's defensive line is monstrous and could present a lot of issues. But even though TCU's defense might not be to the same degree that it has been in years past under Gary Patterson, it still probably is the best in the Big 12, and it's going to be far and away better than anything that Rutgers or Oregon State was able to throw to Ohio State.
Definitely.
I mean, even though Oregon State just gave up practically 80 points to Ohio State, they still broke 30 of their own. So there are some holes to be exposed there. And this feels like a classic Ohio State non-conference letdown game, not unlike playing Oklahoma last year. Obviously, nobody on TCU can bring you what Baker Mayfield does, but I also do think Ohio State last year was a more talented team than the current version. All building that up to say Ryan Day is not going to hand the reins back over to Urban Meyer with a perfect record. I like TCU to pull off the upset.
Look at that. I was waiting for where you were going. You Lee Corso'd the hell out of me here.
Here's the other thing, too. It's going to be in Texas. I don't know if TCU is going to have more fans there.
They probably will not. I would almost, much like my previous bet, I would almost bet most of my life that they would not.
Like, as I was about to say this is a pseudo home game for TCU. It's like, wait a second. This is Ohio State. Like, none of their fans have anything better to do than, like, going down to Jerry World and screaming like hell.
And petition for Urban Meyer to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they don't make the best decisions. But, yeah, I like TCU to shock the world, win this one, which – bear in mind, this is still a top 15 team, but it'd still be a pretty big upset.
Yeah, I think it would be poetic if Ohio State lost this game. It's like you wax the first two teams, and right as Urban Meyer's about to come back, and seemingly the Big Ten East is just falling apart at the seams, then Ohio State goes out and loses to TCU on the road. Like it's not a bad loss per se, but it's one that you can't afford. Like there's no good way to put it, but it's if you're Ryan Day, you almost have to give Urban Meyer a 3-0 record, otherwise, it's bad news.
Yeah, I mean this is his audition basically for future jobs. Like nobody is going to walk away, or at least they shouldn't, from beating two teams that you very clearly have a huge talent advantage on. But this is like it's at the very least a neutral site game against a quality opponent. So I mean this is kind of his prove it moment. Ohio State's still, I think, clearly the more talented team, but it's not like going up against a Rutgers where these are all guys basically happy to be playing at a Power 5 program. TCU still has some studs up and down their roster. I think it's going to be close. I do think Dwayne Haskins is the real deal. I mean, if anybody is a Joe Burrow guy, you have to admit that Dwayne Haskins is leaps and bounds better because, I mean, that's why Joe Burrow left.
Right.
But I still like TCU.
Just the audacity of Rutgers, too, by the way, to start a freshman quarterback at Ohio State is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I too am shocked that did not go well. But yeah, it's not like they're always over with an embarrassment of riches at the position. So
it's a tough spot because they got a Seton Hall guy as AD, and I want him to do well. I just don't want the athletic programs to do anything near success.
You gotta root for him to do well somewhere else, man.
Right.
Somebody bigger has to come calling.
Exactly.
But, yeah, I don't think it's gonna be football for Rutgers.
No.
Yeah. Any other games next week you wanna touch on?
Not off the top of my head. I know we've got 3 already postponed because of the hurricane. We won't get to see our guy Will Grier play North Carolina State, which would have been a matchup of two of the better quarterbacks in the country. Virginia Tech doesn't get to host world beaters East Carolina, who beat North Carolina last week. This is what I want to talk about. And it comes full circle because the last game is Central Florida and North Carolina. How is Larry Fedora not fired? He lost 41-19 to East Carolina. East Carolina and UTEP have been like the two worst teams since Eastern Michigan passed off the torch 6 years ago-ish.
I mean, maybe they're just doing the Kansas football strategy of giving him a week. You know, could have fired David Beatty after Nicholls State, but now look at this resounding victory over world beater Central Michigan.
Oh my God!
Just back in everybody's good graces.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Like, North Carolina is very bad since
Trubisky left.
Yeah, I don't know what else there is to do. Like, he had a good 2 seasons, and then they had a couple shitty ones, and then they had Hakeem Nicks for a little while, and he was pretty good, and then it was all the selling memorabilia or whatever shit that went down, and I just don't understand North Carolina football at all.
I don't know. Maybe they've, again, this is going back to the Kansas comparison, but maybe they've just kind of embraced we're a basketball school. Who cares? But yeah, you would think at a certain point, because it's not like he's doing himself any favors with anything he's saying to the media, pretty much since before the season started. So it's not looking good. I don't really see an ACC team out there who they could be.
No, absolutely not. I don't even I struggle to find other teams that they can beat. Yeah, I know they've got some guys suspended, but this is a Power 5 school. This is an ACC school. You should be able to find talent. North Carolina has so much talent in the state and in the region. Like, go out and find a guy. It's very similar to Texas Tech not being able to field the defense.
There's just no good linebackers in the state of Texas.
It's a fact.
It's a shame. It's a real tough break.
You hate to see it.
That's the way it is. My Hoosiers are 2-0.
Yeah,
making up. Got a feel for Jordan Howard. He apparently does not know what it's like to be at a winning program anymore.
Very sad.
But you hate to see it. They've got Ball State this week after Notre Dame didn't beat them by that much, so a little terrified.
Ball State plus 35 was the easiest money in the world. You knew Notre Dame, especially a Brian Kelly team, would come back out of that and just play like shit.
Yeah, that was a disgusting line. But yeah, good bet in the week. How did you fare over on the show with Phillips?
Very good week. I think I was 11 or 12-4. And one of those 4 losses was Savannah State plus 61 that I put in just because I had to. I saw a 61-point line and I could not take it.
That was Miami, right?
Yeah.
Auburn did not cover theirs.
No,
They were like 63.
Yep.
It's like I saw somebody post about those, and like, those are fake. That can't be real.
It was. It's been a good year. 14-6 last week. That's including the NFL game. So I was 11-4. So I was right, I think. But yeah, it's one of those, like, some of these lines, Vegas is still figuring things out, and I, for the first time ever, feel like I have a jump on what they know. Yeah. Like, UNLV going against UTEP was only a 20-point spread, and UTEP lost by 20 at home to Northern Arizona, and UNLV just put up 300 yards rushing on USC. That felt like an easy one to me, and sure enough, it was.
Chances are a lot of the odds makers do not follow as much niche college football as we do.
Yeah, so, stunning.
So,
they may as well listen at this point, right?
I mean, they want to make money.
Yeah.
Seem to be just sending out free winners. But it's pretty much the show for this week. We will be back again next week to see if the Fighting Herms are still ranked in the top 25, which is incredible that we're saying this 2 weeks into the season. We'll see if Boise State is still the great group of five hope for the playoff, and we'll see if Coach O is himself or if he is just going to be national title bound.
Go Tigers.